Hi guys, this is John and welcome to another episode of the Meatgistics podcast. As you can see, if you're watching, I am solo today. We have no Austin. He is out with COVID. I was out for a couple of weeks with it, so it's definitely hit our neck of the woods. Everyone seems to be fine. I was only sick for a day, and then I was going crazy for 10 days at home. Don't let anyone tell you working from home is fun or easy. It is difficult. So hopefully Austin's being more productive than I was. But we're going to go over a topic this week that seems to be getting a lot of questions on Meatgistics, on our social media, and even in through the website. And that is when to use what additive. So we did this as a live stream once and it seemed to go really well. We're going to do it again as a podcast. I'm going to go through binders, cure accelerators, flavor enhancers, shelf extenders or stabilizers, and what to use when. Because the biggest thing that seems to be happening right now is there are a lot of people who are using carrot fiber in a cured sausage. So carrot fiber is just purely basically shavings of carrots. It is great because it does a good job holding extra water. Carrot fiber can actually hold up to 26 times its weight in water. If you don't believe me, buy a bag of it. It's inexpensive. Take an ounce of it and put 25 ounces of water in it. It'll form like a thick paste. Pour 27 ounces of water in it, totally changes. There's standing water, so it holds that water perfectly well up to a point, and then after that, it just bleeds off any extra water. That is great for a fresh product, especially when we're trying to make a product that's low in fat. When you bite into a nice juicy sausage and you experience that wonderful pop of flavor, that's mostly due to all of the fat in the sausage. What's happening is that fat has melted because you've cooked it at a high temperature. So as soon as you bite into it, it's coating the inside of your mouth. That's going to let all the flavors linger. You'll experience them stronger. When we're making a low-fat sausage, like a chicken sausage, if we do it out of chicken breast, or even really lean cuts of pork, you're going to have a dryness to it because you're missing that fat to pop and to coat the inside of your mouth. Carrot fiber will help hold in extra water during the cooking process. So you do have something like that. It's not as strong as it would be if it was pork fat or beef fat for that matter, but it is something. It's not just as dry a bite. So very good to be used in that situation or really any fresh sausage. But for cured sausage, I do not recommend carrot fiber. There's two reasons why. One is what carrot fiber is trying to do by holding on to as much water as possible is fighting against what we're trying to do when we make a cured sausage. A cured sausage, like a summer sausage, a snack stick, anything like that, is a semi-dried sausage. So we're trying to draw some of that water out of the meat. Carrot fiber, when we add that, is fighting us there. Could increase your smoke times, can also change the texture of your meat. One thing I say a lot, and I want to make sure I say it here, is if you're doing something and you're happy with the results you're getting, keep doing that thing. Don't make a change just because this isn't the quote unquote right way to do it. If you're happy with the results you're getting, just continue on there. The other reason that I don't recommend carrot fiber for a cured sausage is that it doesn't add any protein. Actual binders like Sure-Gel, soy protein blend, and the whatever the other one is, I can't think of it at the moment, actually do add protein. In Sure-Gel, it's in form of, I think it's casein, it's whey basically. And in the soy protein blend, it looks like little breakfast cereal. Like there are little nuggets, looks like oats, and that's the soy. Both of those are adding protein, meaning that when we go ahead and mix it, there's more protein to be extracted. That protein is also in an easy state for it to bond and bind with water, with all of our other additives. So you're increasing the level of protein when you add Sure-Gel or soy protein blend, which makes protein extraction a lot easier. So with carrot fiber, we're just holding water. With Sure-Gel or soy protein blend or even Superbind, we're actually making it easier to extract those proteins. The reason protein extraction is important is it helps prevent what's called fatting out. When we're cooking at the temperatures we're talking about, when we're talking about summer sausage or snack stick, there is definitely the possibility of the fat rendering out of your meat and getting pushed to the outside between the meat and the casing. And then one of two things will happen. It'll either all run down and be on your smoker floor, or it'll stay trapped in between the meat and the casing, and you'll get a really unappealing, greasy look and feel to it. Either way, Sure-Gel or soy protein blend will 100% help prevent that. Well, they'll make it much harder for that to happen. One of the things I like to say about binders is it increases your margin for error. You don't really necessarily need a protein binder like a Sure-Gel or soy protein blend when you're doing cured sausage, but it definitely makes your error for margin for error a lot bigger when it comes to fatting out, when it comes to case hardening. So those are definitely what we recommend. So just for all of binders, go through them real quick. Sure-Gel, it's milk-based and adds protein. It's great for cured sausages, snack stick, summer sausage, anything like that. Carrot fiber is mainly a moisture retainer, and it's good for fresh sausages like bratwurst or breakfast sausage. It's particularly good when we're trying to do a lower fat fresh sausage. Superbind is a mix of carrot fiber and potato starch. One of the really interesting things about the potato starch is it forms a gel at around 130 degrees, which also happens to be when meat really starts to sweat. So as that water is getting pushed out of the meat, that potato starch is starting to form a gel, and it will just absorb all of that, or most of that, and use that. So that's a very good one. If I'm doing something, not weird's the wrong word, but like when I do a feta and spinach chicken brat, I always use Superbind. I also find that it works really, really well with the cellulose casings, which are the skinless product. At the end, you peel off that casing, and Superbind, when I use that, works really well. The soy protein blend, just like the Sure-Gel, that's actually adding some protein. So making protein extraction easier, and don't let the fact that it looks like a bowl of oats throw you off. That will completely dissolve. You will not see any of that in your finished product's texture. There are a couple other ones. They're mainly commercial ones, though. There's W Better Meat Binder. It's a wheat-based, and you'd use it at 3% of your product's weight. So if you're doing 100 pounds of sausage, you would add 3 pounds of that. And then there's a dairy blend, which is a dairy-based binder. It's the closest thing that we sell to non-fat dried milk. And again, use it at 3%. All right, so moving on to accelerators. The biggest one here really is encapsulated citric acid. We use it in any cured sausage we're doing. It does a few things. It increases or decreases the pH of the meat, which lets you go directly from stuffing to smoking. With a normal snack stick, summer sausage, if you're not adding any cure accelerator, what you're doing is you're grinding, you're mixing, you're stuffing, and then you're holding it for 12 hours. The reason you're holding it for 12 hours is because SureCure, which is 6.25% of nitrite, needs some time to break down into nitric oxide, which is what is actually giving the curing power to the meat. If you try to go right from stuffing to smoking without a cure accelerator, your cure is not going to be active. Your meat won't be safe. It's not going to burn as nice a pinkish red, and you won't get that cured meat flavor. So there's a whole host of cure accelerators the most common, at least seems to be amongst Meatgistics and Walton's fans or customers, is the encapsulated citric acid. Now, when it lowers the pH of the meat, that is imparting a tang. And that tang for some people can be a little too strong. We recommend you use encapsulated citric acid at a rate of 4 ounces to 25 pounds of meat. The reason we recommend that is because we talk to all of our, not all, but a lot of our commercial customers, and they do 100-pound batches. They add 16 ounces of encapsulated citric acid every time. That way they know they're good for shelf stability. That rate of drop in pH when you're adding 1 pound, right, 16 ounces to 100 pounds of meat is giving them the product they want. So we just want to share that same thing with you guys at home. That is the best way to do it for shelf stability. Now, without a water activity meter and a pH meter, you can't tell if your product at home is shelf stable. So we always do say, treat it like it's fresh. If you've used the encapsulated citric acid at a rate of 4 ounces to 25 pounds of meat, and it's just a little too tangy for you, you can drop to 3 ounces per 25 pounds of meat. That's not giving you the same strength of shelf stability or the same protection of shelf stability, but it is enough to act as a cure accelerator in your meat. But if you don't like the tang, there are other things I would recommend. I'd recommend you either use sodium erythorbate, which imparts no tang, but you do need a very accurate scale to use this in smaller batches. The reason being is 7/8 of an ounce is enough to accelerate the cure in 100 pounds of meat. So if you're doing even a 25-pound batch, you need a really accurate scale to make sure you're getting the correct amount in there. If you're doing even smaller, like 5-pound batches, you need a hyper-accurate scale that will measure in the fractions of the grams. Something like the precision scale from Escali works really well here. I've used it to measure out plenty of smaller batches of sodium erythorbate, and it does work well. Another option is the smoked meat stabilizer. Smoked meat stabilizer does have some acidity to it, but it is nowhere near as strong as the encapsulated citric acid. So it's a good cure accelerator. It can be used in place of the encapsulated citric acid, and it imparts less of a tang. The problem with smoked meat stabilizer is it cannot be added to a brine. You can add it to your meat and then add some water there as you're mixing it in. That's fine. You just never want to add this product, smoked meat stabilizer, directly to standing water. Reason being there is it gases out very, very quickly. And that gas can be dangerous to inhale. So you do not want to add this directly to standing water. And then there's also the Cure X accelerator, EX accelerator. It's an Excalibur product. 2 ounces works for 100 pounds of meat. It works faster than pure sodium erythorbate or any other Cure accelerator, but it's really only commercially viable. We sell it in larger things to some of our bigger customers. Then for flavor enhancers, there is the California ham spice. That's important to use anytime you're doing hams from scratch. If you're just using a ham cure, you're going to find that's a little bit less on flavor and more just tastes like salt. So some California ham spice is pretty potent. You use 6 to 8 ounces to 10 gallons of water. So 10 gallons of water is a lot of water. And that gives you enough to do 10 to 50, or to do a pump that's 10 to 15%. Meaning if you were doing a 10% pump and your ham weighed 10 pounds before you began, it should weigh 11 pounds at the end. So that's all that pump means. Then there's Bacon Taste Booster. We have 2 versions. One has MSG in it and the other one does not. Bacon Taste Booster is a great way to give old world bacon taste with modern curing techniques. So what does that mean? That means if you're injecting and tumbling you can add this and get a taste that's more similar to dry rubbing your bacon. The advantage to injecting and tumbling is basically you go from injecting and tumbling it right to the smoker. So you're skipping a whole 5 days, depending on how you do your dry rubs. So it's much more commercially viable, but people do like the taste of dry rub bacon. So this bacon taste booster is designed to let you inject and tumble, but still get old world bacon taste. Now, another thing we've found about bacon taste booster recently here is that it can be used for more than just its intended purposes. We started adding it to our imitation bacon like 2 years ago because somebody asked, they're like, hey, what would this be like? I'm like, we've never tried it. Added it, and since then we've added it to pretty much anything that's bacon-like. We add it now to our sweet maple bacon snack sticks. Obviously, we add it to all our bacon. We add it to all of our imitation bacon. It does bring across a nice salty bacon flavor that's just very, very pleasing. So yeah, we went from saying, don't use this other than if you're injecting and tumbling your bacon to, use it for anything you want to increase the bacon flavor on. The one thing that we haven't tried it on is actually, as we're cooking bacon, adding to that, like we do with sometimes the cinnamon toast shaker from Excalibur. Don't think that would work though. If anyone does want to try that, let me know. I would be curious as to how that turns out. Then there's Hickory smoke powder. Hickory smoke powder is to be used when you're trying to impart a smoke flavor, but you're not smoking it. Great for if you're doing something in your oven, if you're in an apartment, or just, it's -5 degrees out like it is here right now. Great way to stay in your kitchen and still get some smoke flavor. Then there's liquid smoke, which is the same thing. And then there's MSG. MSG is a flavor enhancer that kind of has a good amount of controversy to it. And one of the major reasons for that is some people do have a negative reaction to MSG. It can give them headaches, some really, really strong headaches. 98% of the public is probably fine with it. They don't have a problem. But it was one of those things that just got caught up. There's a little bit of hysteria about it. So now almost everything of Excalibur is either MSG free or it says MSG in the title. For example, Willy Snack Stick, there are 2 versions. There's actually a couple of versions of that, but 2 of them, one is MSG free and the other one has it. It will actually say Willy's Snack Stick and then MSG in the end to let you know that that one does have MSG. I'm also not making light of people who do suffer from having an adverse reaction to MSG. I have heard that it is a terrible headache. So just one of those things that's kind of slowly getting phased out. But if you don't have a problem with it, it is a great way to add flavor to your food. It kind of just enhances the umami, or really whatever flavor you're trying to get apart or impart. It really does kind of take on that flavor and boost it. There's corn syrup solids, which, everybody knows what corn syrup is. Flavor Excel, that's another one at EX. That's an Excalibur kind of play on words there. Very similar to MSG. There's dextrose. Dextrose is used a lot when we're talking about starter cultures because it's easier for the starter culture to eat that and break that down. So if you put a starter culture in something that had regular sugar and dextrose, it would go towards the dextrose and it would perform better in dextrose as well. So a lot of times when you see dextrose in the ingredients, it was designed that way. Not a lot of times, but some of the time, it was designed that way so that people could use it easily with starter cultures. And then there's Flavor Excel, which is just a combination of salt, MSG, spices, including celery and pepper. And it's commercial use really only. It comes in 50-pound boxes. And then for shelf life extenders, we've got deer and wild game rinse. This is the most important one to you guys at home. And what it is just a little powder that we sell that you can mix up in a spray bottle, leave in your car or at your stand, wherever. And when you get your deer, your elk, your whatever, spray almost the entire carcass, paying special attention to the wound area. So what this is it's trying to protect the carcass from bacteria, anything bad growing on that wound site. So it's giving you more of a shield for that time it's going to take to get it home, get it hung up, and hopefully get it in the cooler. Depending on the time of year, that it may or may not be as necessary, but it's just preventing anything from growing in there that's going to spoil meat. So then there's Purosol, which is a mixture of food-grade potassium lactate and sodium diacetate. It's used in pickles a lot and injections. It acts as an antibacterial agent, and it fights off a lot of bacteria that is classically responsible for food spoilage. So you'll see Purosol in a lot of the bigger plants. Just a way to prevent food spoilage. Fresh Bloom is Excalibur's mix of citric acid, ascorbic, and erythorbic acids, and it's a way to fight microbes, especially E. coli. This is specifically to be designed to be used with fresh meat, hence the Fresh Bloom. It's a carcass spray, so you mix it up and spray it on the carcasses. And then potassium sorbate prevents the growth of harmful molds and microbes. This is the one that you'll see it used as a dip a lot. So they'll have a vat is the wrong word, but a tank, and they'll dip either whole cuts of meat in it, something like that. It is protecting the outside of that sausage or whole cut of meat and letting it be exposed to air for longer periods of time without worrying about things growing on it. And then for moisture retainers, we've got the one that we use the most, which is cold phosphate. Cold phosphate is going to increase the pH of your meat, making it easier for water to chemically bind with the meat. So it's creating more negatively charged electrons. I think I'm right on that, which makes it easier for the water to hook up to that meat. The advantage of that being that you can get a juicier finished product. Americans, unfortunately, have a tendency to cook certain cuts of meat, specifically chicken, too quickly. And without something like that, they'll often get a overly dry, somewhat flavorless cut of meat. Adding something like cold phosphate, either as an injection or as a marinade, can help fight that. And even if the meat is cooked quickly, still give you a good finished product. Now, I'm sure none of the Meatgistics members who listen to this podcast would ever cook their chicken too quickly, but for everybody else out there, it does help. Don't let something like phosphate scare you off, or specifically like a chicken or a ham, anything like that. We got sodium tripolyphosphate, increases the pH and improves yields. So yield enhancement is one of the trickier ones, because when you read something like that, you think, oh, that's the processor trying to sell me water, basically. You know, they pumped it to 10%, so now their product weighs 10% more, and they're charging me for that water. So yes, but also no. The reason that they add that percentage of it is because they've done extensive testing with customers, and that adds more satisfaction to the customer. So it's actually used more for our satisfaction than it is to increase their profits. It does do both, but for the most part, it really is added to make us enjoy the final product more than it is designed to make them a few extra bucks. And then we already talked about Fresh Bloom. I don't know why that's down there. Sodium tripolyphosphate can be used as a 10% pump. Sodium tripolyphosphate is not something you guys are going to be using at home. That is a commercial product, but just good to know if you see that in something you buy in the store, it's not anything to be really nervous about. All right. So that's it for today, guys. We're going to have our Meatgistics weekly live stream on Thursday at waltonsinc.com/live. So join us there. We're going to get this podcast out to you as soon as possible. So today is the 15th. Hopefully you can listen to this on the 16th. And we'll see you guys in about a week.